Chapter 30, The Jewish Super Angel. Growing up conservative Jewish in Edgemont, New York, Joshua was never entirely comfortable around angel ornaments of any kind. For example, when his wife's best friend got his daughter Matilda fairy wings for Christmas one year, insisting she try them on immediately, Joshua freaked out instantaneously, stating, "Take the fairy wings off my daughter now. She looks like an overdose at the Limelight waiting to happen." The Limelight was an abandoned church turned into a clubby rolling paradise throughout the late 80s, mid-90s, making Macaulay Culkin look like a rapidly aging embalmed cadaver in fairy wings in the movie Party Animal, draining him of any old-school age of innocence charm left. You would think Joshua's mother from Louisville, Kentucky, converting to Judaism, would make him a tad less tense around angels on Christmas trees without feeling the need to deride almost all Jesus and angel Christmas-related ornaments as too churchy. For his taste, it didn't help knowing his father would constantly shoot down his own mother's request to get a Christmas tree every year during the holiday season because they already had Christmas stockings full of clementines, and they put Christmas gifts from their Christian relatives down south on the piano nobody ever played. There were no future Randy Newmans being groomed in the Kornbluth household on Glenwood Road. Every year, Joshua would push on his mom's behalf and say, "Dad, get Mom a tree already." She only abandoned her relationship with her Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ for you, which wasn't a huge profitable gain on her behalf, knowing that in the end all she really did is marry into your putty DNA. It's the least you can do, don't you think? Joshua's father says, "Son, Jews don't buy Christmas trees unless they convert it into a treehouse and flip it for a profit." Finally, Joshua's dad relented one year, but only allowed the placement of a dwarfish, scrubby bush within the cobweb-laden corner within the darkened inside porch, winning the award for the saddest-looking, non-conjuring Christmas tree ever concocted. Still, Joshua, marrying a Gentile, did his best to get more comfortable in church by taking his 3 kids to St. Patrick's Cathedral during the holiday season to ask God for a favorable review from the New York Post after he got the book editor there interested enough to give his dead book, Controlling My Kids, a Comedy, a love story, a read. And Joshua never heard back from the New York Post editor, yet Hail Marys only work for Doug Flutie. Also, Joshua didn't perceive a glowing review from a book editor at the New York Post as an act of God in need of a miracle, because the Almighty was already channeled through his dead book, flush with A-plus jokes and poetic prose, enough to give King David, who first became famous as a big-time singer, songwriter, poet, harp player of his day, sustaining stiffage, long time. But in church, Joshua made it clear to his kids, just address prayers to God and not Jesus, and you're still kosher in the Old Testament's book. Bill Maher could give a shit either way. Joshua started brushing up on angel literature, learning how Joshua was Moses' #1 assistant, which is more daunting than the last one working for Harvey Hairclumps Weinstein, trying to secure a meeting with a new It actress on his old casting couch at the Four Seasons. Joshua decided to give the Hebrew name Jeremiah for his son, Arthur Morrison Kornbluth, because he wrote the Book of Lamentations, and Joshua was always a huge hair metal power ballad guy, whose songs, similar to the Book of Lamentations, were always sorrowful but full of poetic longing and fleshed out feeling. Later, Joshua gave his son Samuel the Hebrew name Isaac, Yitzhak in Hebrew, which means to laugh, because the biblical Sarah got knocked up way past Sarah Silverman's expiration date already. Joshua also loved the name Isaac because even the Quran gave Isaac props, which would provide his son immunity from any potential future charges of Islamophobia for pointing out how Linda Sarsour, loving Bernie Sanders, hates Israel more than his mother on Twitter. And if Joshua were to rank the best prophets of all time on Ranker, he'd put Isaac in the top 5 after Moses and Abraham and King David, knowing he was no minor side character like the Tim Meadows of prophets, because he was the grandfather behind the 12 tribes of Israel, Notre Dame wouldn't make Joshua's list of top prophets on Ranker because he converted to Catholicism, so he wouldn't be lumped together with all those Christian blood-eating, ratty-looking Jews for being the main culprits behind proliferating the fucking plague. How convenient. Now, Joshua was buzzing with heady post celebratory anticipation, knowing he destroyed during his audition for the family-friendly Porsche SUV campaign as he sipped his macchiato at a swanky, modern, high-tin ceiling cover coffee shop in the West Village, which could belong in Park Slope, Brooklyn, if it ever attracted stylish, zero-frump, A-plus trim, and above. Joshua addresses the barista who made the macchiato at the coffee bar after he savors another sip. Phenomenal macchiato. It's the most hydrating, non-burnt macchiato I ever had in my life outside of Melbourne, Australia. I just feel like a total moron for having to fly 5 million miles across the globe at 35 years old to finally try a macchiato for the first time in my life. During my honeymoon in Australia, after dropping 2 Ambien and 2 mini servings of Jack Daniels before goodnight Irene on Qantas, farting out fumes of clam chowder from our layover in San Fran prior, macchiatos are circumcised cappuccinos, as far as I'm concerned. I wanted to marry my wife in Australia, in Mother's Beach, in Victoria, where she grew up for a bit, yet my mom calls me on the phone one day and says, "Son, Australia is a long flight from New York, and your father doesn't love you that much." And I said, "Mom, just tell Dad to drop another Ambien to sleep on the plane," which won't be a radical departure from him doing the same at home after work on the couch for another 6-hour stretch at a time. Finally, I reached a compromise with my wife. I said, if we have a boy, instead of hiring a rabbi for the circumcision, we can hire Crocodile Dundee, just so we could hear a room full of Jews say, "Now that's a knife. You can chop it all up with that thing." The Great Canally draped Jewish super angel sporting a Black Power CAA power tie finishes laughing long time and says, "Shouldn't you be performing at the Cellar or at Caroline's on Broadway? Your delivery is even better than the A-plus material itself." Joshua perks up immediately, turns his body toward the Jewish super angel and says, "Thank you very much. I appreciate the praise long time. I'm actually banned from the Comedy Cellar for going over my allotted time by 5 hours after getting the 1-minute warning sign light to wrap it up. Only 2 minutes into my killer set, showcasing killer Heather Mills material, only after I invited my own well-paying private militia. Taunting management with the actual militia line didn't make management at the Comedy Cellar hate me any less. I did audition for the New York Comedy Festival and for a reality show titled America's Next Great Roaster at Caroline's on Broadway. After an older comic gave me the idea to audition, who used to attend open mic, I hosted in the downstairs of a belly dancing Moroccan restaurant on the most derelict slab of real estate remaining in Manhattan, off the corner of 40th and 10th. My roast subject was Justin Timberlake. At the audition, I opened with, "Justin Timberlake is like George Michael. He sings, dances, and sucks." I also sampled some Park Slope Stroller Mom material and said, "Do kids in Park Slope make your mama so stupid jokes about stroller moms?" Such as, "Your mom is so dumb she can't even complete the crossword puzzle" in the Monday New York Times. That joke is so elitist, Hillary just got moist for the first time in years. The Jewish super angel finishes laughing long time and says, "Yeah, I hate that evil wench too. Remember when it took Hillary 5 times to get her Metro card to work?" Joshua says, "I do." With all the camera crews hovering around her, Hillary Hammer Time Cankel says to herself before swipe number 5, "Super predators, black people are watching. You can do it!" Nice wins or not, by the way. Add that to my never-ending learn how to do list. Or the list of stuff my father never bothered teaching me. The Jewish super angel says, "You mean Seinfeld hasn't done an entire laugh-free driving cars episode on the subject with George Lopez yet?" Joshua says, "I just read about Seinfeld selling one of his Porsches at a charity function in the Hamptons. I just hope half those proceeds went to Larry's kids." The Jewish super angel says, "What brings you to the West Village?" Joshua says, "I just finished an audition to become the new family spokesperson for the new line of Porsche Cayenne SUVs. I could use the startup money for my kosher food truck business, selling the Do-It-All Dad Hero, the first ever kosher cheesesteak truck made with kosher smoked brisket and a plant-based Cheese Whiz. I got a kosher Cheese Whiz master working on the recipe for the Whiz right now, who graduated John Hopkins before I could complete my untimed SAT. Around the time my friends at Washington University were declaring their majors sophomore year in college, the Jewish super angel says, "Take my card. Consider me your Jewish super angel. I invest in startups for a living, but what I really invest in is people." Ashton Kutcher stole that line from me, for the record. Joshua says, "I'll be in touch then." I played Ashton Kutcher in a game of pickup ball at Fairfax High School once. He looked way prettier than Demi Moore when I saw her in person outside the Century City movie theater once. She had a droopy, elongated, stretchy neck and the figure of an undeveloped 12-year-old boy.